They told me to be a ghost, to stay buried. But on national television, one question about seeing a ghost accidentally unearthed my past and reignited a deadly hunt. The lights were hotter than I ever imagined. Not just warm, but a physical weight pressing down, cooking the pancake makeup on my face until it felt like a suffocating clay mask. On TV, the Family Feud set looks like a carnival of joy and goofy answers. In person, it's a high-pressure terrarium, and I was the bug under the magnifying glass. To my left, my family was all smiles. My brother Mark, a square-jawed guy with a laugh 2 sizes too big for his body, was bouncing on the balls of his feet. My mom, Carol, kept patting my hand, her rings cold against my clammy skin. They were the picture of wholesome Midwestern excitement. They were also complete strangers. My real name isn't Jenna, my brother isn't Mark, and my mother sure as hell isn't Carol. Mark's real name is Agent Thompson and Carol is Agent Miller. They're my U.S. Marshals, and for the last 3 years they, along with a rotating cast of others, have been the only family I've known. Coming on this show was my idea, my stupid, reckless, desperate idea. After years of living in shades of gray, of being a ghost in my own life, I just wanted one day, one single, solitary day, of bright, stupid, uncomplicated fun. I wanted to stand in the lights, laugh at Steve Harvey's jokes, and feel like a normal person, just for a little while. Miller had been against it from the start. Exposure, Jenna. Unnecessary risk. Thompson, surprisingly, was the one who advocated for me. She's cracking, sir. She needs a tether to the world, hiding in plain sight. It's a bold move, but it might just be the thing that keeps her sane. So here we were, the Parker family, a lie broadcast in 4K to millions of homes. We'd rehearsed for weeks, not the game, but our backstory. We were from Muncie, Indiana. I was a second-grade teacher. Mark sold dental equipment. Our whole lives were a carefully constructed fiction, and I had a splitting headache from trying to keep all the details straight. Steve Harvey was a pro, a master of ceremonies. He glided onto the stage, all gleaming teeth and impeccable tailoring, and the crowd erupted. He had this energy that was infectious, and for a few glorious minutes I forgot to be terrified. I was just another contestant, star-struck and grinning like an idiot. We won the first round. The question was, name a reason a person might be late for work. Mark, bless his heart, hit the #1 answer with traffic. The board lit up, the celebratory ding-ding-ding echoed through the studio, and we all hugged, a staged explosion of familial joy. For a second, it felt real. The applause washed over me, a warm wave, and I thought, I can do this. This is okay. The second round was ours too. Then came the third. We were on a roll. Steve was riffing with us, joking about Mark's ridiculously perfect teeth. You sell dental equipment? Son, you are dental equipment. Your smile's so bright I'm gonna need sunglasses. Everyone laughed. I laughed. It was easy. It was normal. Then came the question. Steve turned to me, his smile wide. All right, Jenna. For control of the board, we asked 100 people, name something a person might see that would make them think they've seen a ghost. My blood went cold. It was such an innocent question, so stupidly, harmlessly simple. But my mind didn't go to a white sheet or a spooky noise. It went straight back to a rainy Tuesday night on the docks in Baltimore. It went to the face of my old boss, Vincent Moretti, his eyes wide with surprise and a dark red stain spreading across the front of his pristine white shirt. It went to the man holding the gun, who turned and looked directly at me for a full second before melting back into the shadows. That was the ghost I saw. The ghost that had haunted me every single day for the last 1,095 days. The buzzer sounded in front of me. I was supposed to hit it. I was supposed to smile and say something funny like, "Your own reflection in a window." But my hand wouldn't move. It was frozen, resting on the smooth plastic console. The studio lights seemed to zero in, the heat intensifying, the cheerful music warping into a low, ominous drone in my ears. The world narrowed to a pinpoint. Steve's smile faltered just a little. He could see it. He could see that my carefully constructed mask was cracking. "Jenna, you in there?" he asked, his voice losing its game show boom and taking on a note of genuine concern. Mark, Agent Thompson, cleared his throat beside me, a prearranged signal for "get it together." But I couldn't. I couldn't breathe. The face of that man, the one the FBI still couldn't identify, was burned onto the inside of my eyelids. What if he was watching? What if he recognized me, even with the different hair color and the 20 pounds I'd gained? My carefully built new life was a house of cards, and a single gust of wind was blowing it all down on national television. Steve took a step closer. The cameras zoomed in. "Young lady, are you all right? You look like you've seen a—" He stopped himself. The word hung in the air between us. Ghost. My whole body started to shake, a tremor I couldn't control. This was it. The risk wasn't bold. It was catastrophic. "Stop," I whispered, not realizing my microphone was on. "Please, stop taping." The studio fell silent. The music cut off. Every eye, every camera was on me. Steve Harvey looked at the producer, then back at me, his expression unreadable. He walked right up to my podium, leaning in. "What's going on, Jenna? Talk to me." I looked past him, at the sea of dark camera lenses, each one a potential killer's eye. The lie was too heavy. I couldn't hold it up anymore. My voice was a choked, desperate rasp, but in the dead silence of the studio it sounded like a scream. "My name isn't Jenna." The sound in the studio didn't just stop. It was sucked out, leaving a ringing vacuum in its place. 1,000 unblinking eyes, both in the audience and behind the cameras, were fixed on me. Steve Harvey's face, inches from mine, was a mask of utter confusion. For a split second, I saw a flicker of something else. Not pity, but a deep professional alarm. He was the captain of this ship, and I had just blown a hole in the hull. Behind me, I felt rather than saw the shift. Mark, Agent Thompson, took a half-step forward, his body tensing. Carol, Agent Miller, let out a tiny, sharp exhale, a sound no one but I would notice. The game was over. The real one had just begun. Steve didn't miss a beat. He straightened up, turning his body slightly to block the main camera's direct view of my face. It was a subtle, protective gesture that I'll never forget. He raised a hand, not to me, but to someone off stage. "All right, folks, let's take a quick commercial break," he announced, his voice regaining its smooth, commanding tone, but it was strained. The applause sign flickered on, and the audience, bless their confused hearts, responded with a scattered, uncertain smattering of claps. The theme music swelled, a grotesquely cheerful sound crashing against the tension in the air. The moment the lights dimmed for the break, it was like a switch was flipped. Miller's hand was on my arm, her grip like iron. "Smile and wave," she hissed into my ear, her voice a low, terrifying growl. "We're walking off." Now, Thompson was on my other side, his hand on the small of my back, guiding me. To the audience, it probably looked like they were consoling a contestant overwhelmed by stage fright. It felt like an extraction. We moved past the opposing family, their faces a mixture of concern and bewilderment. We walked off the gleaming stage, away from the spinning lights, and into the dim, chaotic labyrinth of backstage. The second we were out of sight, the pretense shattered. Miller shoved me toward a dressing room, her face a thundercloud. Inside. Now Thompson followed, closing the door behind us with a heavy thud that sealed us in. The room was small, generic, with a lit mirror and a sad-looking fruit basket. Miller started pacing, her movements sharp and angry, like a caged tiger. "What in God's name was that?" she finally exploded, whirling to face me. "My name isn't Jenna. Are you insane? We had one rule, one. You keep your head down, you play the part, and you do not draw attention." I panicked, I whispered, my whole body shaking again. I sank onto the small sofa, the cheap fabric rough against my skin. The question about seeing a ghost. I saw him, Miller. I saw the shooter's face again, right there. "We all have ghosts, Sarah," she shot back, using my real name for the first time in over a year. It felt like a slap. "You think you're the only one? Your job is to keep them buried. Our job is to keep you buried. You just took a shovel and started digging yourself up on national television." Thompson put a calming hand on her shoulder. "Deborah, calm down. Yelling isn't going to fix this." He knelt in front of me, his voice low and steady, the way he spoke when he was trying to coax me out of a nightmare. "Sarah, we need to know what you said, exactly what you said, before they cut to commercial." I looked at his face, the calm center in my swirling vortex of terror. I said, "Stop taping." And then he asked me what was wrong, and I said, "My name isn't Jenna." Thompson closed his eyes, his jaw working. Miller let out a string of curses that would have made a sailor blush. "It's a live-to-tape show, Thompson. They can edit it. They have to edit it," I pleaded, my voice thin. "We can fix this." Miller laughed, a harsh, humorless sound. "Fix this? Sarah, your face was just broadcast in high definition to a test audience of 500 people, and God knows who else is in the network pipeline. You think Vincent Moretti's people don't have contacts everywhere? You think they aren't still looking for the one witness who put half their organization away? You didn't just put yourself in danger, you put us in danger. You put this whole program in danger." Her words hit me harder than any physical blow. The weight of my selfishness, my stupid desire for one normal day, crashed down on me. Before I could respond, there was a frantic knock at the door. Thompson was on his feet in an instant, his body positioned between me and the entrance. "Who is it?" he called out, his voice now devoid of any game show charm. It was pure federal agent. "It's Barry. Barry Feldman, the executive producer." A harried voice came from the other side. "I need to talk to you guys. We have a situation." Thompson looked at Miller, who gave a sharp nod. He opened the door a crack. A short, bald man in an expensive but rumpled suit stood there, sweating profusely under the hallway lights. He was holding a tablet, his hand shaking. "I am so sorry," he stammered, looking from Thompson to me. "We're handling it. My lawyers are already talking to your people. We'll sign whatever NDAs you want. We'll cut the whole segment. It will never see the light of day, I promise." Thompson's voice was ice. "What is the situation, Barry?" Barry swallowed hard, his eyes wide with fear. Not of mobsters, but of lawsuits. The broadcast feed. We run on a 7-second delay to the public. We caught it. We stopped it. The audience here will be dismissed. We can contain this. A sliver of hope ignited in my chest. He could contain it. It was okay. But then Barry's face grew even paler. But the internal network stream, the one we send live to our affiliate stations across the country so they can prep their local ad breaks. It doesn't have a delay. It's a raw feed, Miller stepped forward. Get to the point, Barry. The producer looked down at his tablet, then back at us, his expression one of pure horror. It's already out there. Someone at an affiliate in Ohio must have been screen capping. A 10-second clip of her breakdown. It's on Twitter. It's got 1,000 retweets already. He turned the tablet around, and there it was. My face, pale and terrified. The caption underneath the grainy video sent a spike of ice-cold dread through my entire body. It read, "Anyone else see this? Who is this woman?" The image on the tablet burned itself into my retinas. My own face, twisted in a rictus of raw panic, was being replicated and shared in the digital ether, multiplying like a virus. 1,000 retweets. In the world I came from, that might as well have been 1,000,000. Each share was a digital breadcrumb leading straight back to me, the ghost who was never supposed to exist. Miller let out a low, guttural sound, the noise of a strategist watching the entire board get wiped clean in a single idiotic move. "Get us out of here," she snapped at Thompson, her voice a whip crack. "Now! Protocol Epsilon, Protocol Epsilon." I had only heard the term once during my initial intake. It was the emergency button, the glass you break when a protected witness's cover is not just blown, but atomized. It meant my life as Jenna Parker from Muncie, Indiana, was over. It meant everything I had, the small apartment, the library card, the faint illusion of a life I'd painstakingly built over 3 years, was about to be incinerated. Thompson was already on his phone, speaking in clipped, coded phrases. "Raven is compromised. I repeat, Raven is compromised. Initiate Epsilon. Burbank staging area. ETA 15 minutes. He glanced at me, his eyes hard, but not unkind. "Leave everything. We go now." Barry, the producer, was babbling apologies, his face the color of putty. "We're taking it down. We've issued takedown notices. It'll be gone in an hour." Miller turned on him, her eyes blazing with a cold fury that made the man physically flinch. "An hour? An hour is a lifetime. You have any idea what you've done?" She didn't wait for an answer. She grabbed my arm, her grip bruising, and hauled me out of the dressing room. We moved fast. The backstage area, which had seemed like a funhouse maze just minutes before, now felt like a death trap. Every stagehand who glanced our way was a potential threat. Every ringing phone was a death knell. Thompson led the way, navigating the corridors with a purpose that belied the chaos unfolding around us. We didn't go out the front. We didn't go out the artist's entrance. He kicked open a fire exit that led into a grimy, sun-baked alleyway reeking of stale popcorn and garbage. The sudden California brightness was blinding after the dim studio. A black, nondescript sedan was idling at the curb, a car I'd never seen before. This was Protocol Epsilon in action. A new car, a new route, a new life. As soon as we were inside, the driver, a grim-faced man I didn't recognize, peeled away from the curb without a word. I was crammed in the back between Miller and Thompson, a human parcel being shipped to an unknown destination. My heart was a frantic drum against my ribs. I could still see the tweet. "Who is this woman?" The question echoed in my head. Vincent Moretti's people wouldn't need long to find the answer. They had a network that made Twitter look like a children's playground. They had faces everywhere. Cops, city officials, tech guys. They were a cancer in the system, and they had been hunting for me, the state's key witness against their entire East Coast operation, for 3 solid years. I had seen the face of the man who shot Moretti's biggest rival. I had heard the plans. I was the thread that could unravel their whole criminal dynasty, and I had just handed them a map. "Where are we going?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. "Secure location," Thompson said, his eyes scanning the traffic, the sidewalks, every car we passed. "We'll stay there until a transport is arranged." "And then?" "And then," Miller cut in, her voice flat and dead, "you get a new name, a new face. You'll be shipped off to some godforsaken town in Alaska or Wyoming where the biggest excitement is the annual moose-dropping festival. You'll have no contact with us, no contact with anyone. You will cease to exist. Again. All because you wanted to play a damn game show." The words were brutal, but I deserved them. I stared out the window at the palm trees and strip malls blurring past, the symbols of a life that was no longer mine. The life of Jenna, the second-grade teacher, had lasted for 3 hours. My phone buzzed in my pocket. Instinctively, I reached for it. Miller's hand shot out and clamped down on my wrist. "Don't even think about it." "It's a burner," I said. "No contacts, no social media. It's clean." She hesitated for a fraction of a second, her eyes boring into mine. "Who would be calling you on a clean burner?" The screen lit up with a number I didn't recognize, but it was the area code that made my breath catch in my throat. 410. Baltimore, the city I'd fled, the heart of Moretti's territory. It had to be a coincidence, a wrong number. It had to be. "Don't answer it," Thompson commanded. But my hand was already moving, a morbid curiosity overriding every instinct for self-preservation. My thumb swiped across the screen. I put the phone to my ear, my hand trembling so badly I could barely hold it steady. For a few seconds there was only silence, the faint hiss of an open line. Then a voice. It was low, distorted, and electronic, like a ransom note read by a machine. It wasn't the voice of the shooter, but it was a voice that carried the same chilling weight of inevitability. It spoke only 5 words, but those 5 words shattered the last vestiges of hope I had. "We see you, Sarah." I dropped the phone as if it were on fire. It clattered to the floor of the car. Thompson and Miller stared at me, their faces grim. They didn't need to ask what was said. They could see it in my eyes. The hunt wasn't coming. It was already here. Suddenly, the driver slammed on the brakes, throwing us all forward. Up ahead, a black SUV had swerved sideways, completely blocking the road. My world constricted to the space inside that sedan. The screech of our tires was drowned out by the thunder in my ears. Outside the windshield, the black SUV sat like a predator, its tinted windows reflecting the apathetic blue California sky. This was it. This was the end of the line, a grimy industrial road in Burbank. My stupid, selfish mistake had led us into an ambush. 3 years of running, of looking over my shoulder, of sleeping with one eye open, all for it to end here because I wanted to win a toaster oven on Family Feud. Thompson didn't hesitate. He wasn't a game show brother anymore. He was a warrior. "Down!" he roared, shoving my head below the level of the window as he drew his service weapon from a holster I never knew he had. Miller was right beside him, her own gun appearing in her hand as if by magic. The grim-faced driver was already on the radio, his voice a torrent of calm, professional terror. "Ambush!" I repeat, "ambush on Victory Boulevard. Officer down imminent, requesting immediate backup." The doors of the SUV flew open. Two men, dressed in dark suits that looked ridiculously hot in the valley sun, stepped out. They weren't holding guns. They were holding badges. FBI. My mind reeled, struggling to process the scene. This wasn't Moretti's men. This was something else. A man in a slightly better suit got out of the passenger side. He was older, with graying temples and a face that looked like it had been carved from granite. He held his hands up in a placating gesture and walked slowly toward our car. "Marshal Thompson! Marshal Miller! Stand down!" he yelled, his voice carrying clearly in the sudden silence. "I'm Assistant Director Hanson, FBI. We're not here to hurt you. We're here to help." Thompson didn't lower his weapon. "Help us? You ran us off the road." "We had to isolate you," Hanson shouted back. "Your comms are compromised. Your entire network is. We picked up the chatter the second that video hit the web. They knew your Epsilon protocol. They knew the route. They were waiting for you 2 miles down the road." The blood drained from my face. They weren't just watching Twitter. They were inside. They knew the marshal's emergency plans. Miller slowly lowered her gun, her eyes wide with dawning horror. Hanson approached Thompson's window. "The call you just received on the burner?" he asked, his voice low now. "That was us. A trace. We had to pinpoint your exact location. It wasn't a threat. It was a rescue. A clumsy, terrifying, high-stakes rescue." Hanson looked past Thompson, his gaze landing on me, cowering in the back seat. "Sarah Connor?" he asked, a slight, weary smile touching his lips. "It's time to stop running." The next few hours were a blur of debriefings in a sterile federal building. The story that unfolded was more terrifying than I could have imagined. For the last year, Moretti's organization had been one step ahead of the Marshals because they had a source deep inside the WITSEC program. My televised panic attack hadn't just exposed me, it had flushed out the mole. When the alert for Protocol Epsilon went out, the mole had immediately tipped off Moretti's people, feeding them the route to the secure location. The FBI, who had been running a parallel counterintelligence operation, intercepted the communication. They had to stage a public dramatic intervention to pull us out before we drove into a kill box. My mistake, my colossal, life-altering screw-up, had inadvertently saved our lives and exposed a traitor who had been compromising the safety of countless other witnesses. It was the dumbest, luckiest thing that had ever happened. Hanson explained the new plan. The old way of hiding wasn't working. Moretti's reach was too long, his resources too vast. As long as I was a ghost, they would hunt me. The only way to win was to stop hiding and start fighting. "The man who shot Rico Diaz on the docks," Hanson said, sliding a photograph across the table. "His name is Anton Petrov, ex-Spetsnaz, Moretti's personal enforcer. He's the one piece we've never been able to tie to the top. You're the only one who saw his face that night." He looked me straight in the eye. "We don't want you to hide anymore, Sarah. We want you to testify, in open court. We've been building a RICO case that can dismantle Moretti's entire empire, but Petrov is the linchpin. Your testimony, putting him at that scene, will bring it all down." My first instinct was to say no, to demand another life in another town. But Miller's words echoed in my head. A God-forsaken town in Alaska. Another life spent in fear, waiting for the other shoe to drop. What kind of life was that? I had spent 3 years being a ghost. For the first time, they were offering me a chance to be a person again, to have my name back, my real name. 3 months later, I walked into a federal courtroom. I wasn't Jenna or Sarah anymore. I was Sarah Ann Connolly. I walked past the press, past the spectators, and I didn't hide my face. I looked directly at the defendant's table. There he was, Anton Petrov, the face from my nightmares. His eyes were cold and empty, just as I remembered. But sitting next to him, looking pale and shrunken in a prison jumpsuit, was Vincent Moretti. My testimony had created a firestorm, forcing him out of the shadows. As I took the stand, I glanced over at the gallery. In the third row, between my real parents, who had been brought in under heavy guard, sat Steve Harvey. He caught my eye and gave me a small, encouraging nod. He had insisted on being there, telling the U.S. attorney it was the least he could do. I raised my right hand and swore the oath. When the prosecutor asked me to identify the man who murdered Rico Diaz, my voice didn't shake. I pointed a steady finger at Anton Petrov. "It was him," I said, my voice ringing with a clarity and confidence I hadn't felt in years. "I see you." And in that moment, I knew the ghost wasn't me anymore. It was him.